YouTube says that I am live. It is Gordon Causey, as it always is, and as is almost always the case, Candy, the Wonder Dog. Got to stop calling her the Wonder Pup because she's 5 now. Not that she cares. I can call me anything you want, just don't call me late for my treat. That's her attitude. Shikapaw, lay down. Speak. Okay, close enough. More of a chuff than a loud bark. She can have a piercing bark when she wants. She wants your attention. She knows how to get it, and if someone goes walking down the street, man, oh man, she'll let you hear it. Have my coffee, and I have my topic for tonight. It's talk about the third rail, the topic you're never supposed to discuss. I'm stepping into it, but it's in character. I'm often the one who likes talking about things that are at times uncomfortable. Today is Monday, January 13th. It's right around 10:50 p.m. in my time zone, Eastern time zone. I live in southeastern rural Ontario, farming country. And before I get going, if the topic at hand doesn't turn you off completely and you wouldn't be watching this if it did, I'll invite you to hit the like button and the usual, if you want to subscribe to the channel, sharing and all that stuff, always good. The live chat is always on as well. We'll see if anyone jumps on to the live chat. And likewise, comments are welcome. And I'm wondering how much engagement a video of this covering this topic is going to get. And I've scripted, again, I'm getting into the habit of scripting out what I'm going to be saying. So pardon me while I look down, try to be as, I do not have a teleprompter. This is a miserable, pathetic little YouTube station. It's just one guy, Gordon Causey, 58-year-old, Christian, Canadian male, straight, putting a tick in just about every box that gets you canceled in today's world. But YouTube gives anyone a platform to inject their voice into the public discourse. We'll see if this resonates or not. And diving right into it, as I said off the bat, this is one of the most taboo subjects in Canadian society, probably in a lot of the Western world. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it is probably the most taboo subject, trumping both politics and religion. You hear that all the time. Don't talk about politics or religion. And it makes sense that abortion would be, even more taboo than politics or religion, because there are both religious and political components to the whole discussion, to the whole debate. And a lot of people just don't want to have the debate. They just want to ignore it, pretend it's not there. But often it is those subjects that are the most uncomfortable. These are the conversations that we most need to have. And the thing is, it goes beyond. This debate is about more than just politics and religion. There's more depth to it than that. And those on the pro-abortion side will even take exception to an individual such as myself, a man, weighing in. Pro-abortion advocates say that men should sit down and shut up. And what I find ironic is that many individuals advocating that men sit down and shut up are people who cannot even define or tell you what a woman is, but we'll leave that aside. But men, we represent roughly half the population. of Canadian society, of humanity, and silencing half the population serves the interest of the pro-abortion advocates very well, because in the Canadian context, the pro-abortion lobby has basically achieved, I'm going to say, near total victory. So maintaining the status quo is vitally important. When you've gained just about everything, if you're at 99% of your goals, there's far more to lose than there is to gain. And what is the status quo? What is the status quo in Canada? I am Canadian. Well, in my country, in Canada, there are absolutely no legal restrictions, no legal barriers whatsoever on having an abortion at any time and for any reason. I'll say that again. There are absolutely no restrictions, no barriers whatsoever legally to an abortion taking place at any time and for any reason. What am I talking about? Sex selection abortion, gender selection. Couple finds out they're going to have a girl. They don't want a girl. Maybe they have 2 girls already and they wanted a boy. Well, you can, in Canada, terminate the pregnancy and try again for a boy. That unborn child, get rid of it because it's female. Try for a boy. Likewise, at any time, right up until birth, right up until moments before birth, it is legal in Canada to abort, and choice is choice. So why doesn't even enter into the question. It's your choice. Circumstances changed. My mental outlook changed. I'm not ready anymore. Well, okay, choice is choice. Any reason, any time. And some listening right now, they might take exception to the fact that Canada has 0 restrictions on abortion. A lot of Canadians believe that late-term procedures are like super incredibly rare. Like you could count them on one hand, the number of late-term abortions that happen in a year. And that there are barriers, and that they only happen in circumstances like involving maternal health, where there's the potential for the mother to die if she was to continue with the pregnancy. And I get those people have that perception, but those perceptions are not based on fact, and those perceptions are divorced from reality. Back in the year 2009, Angus Reid, a very reputable polling outfit in Canada, Angus Reid, they did a survey. They polled over 1,000 Canadians. Similar size poll to what we get when they take the temperature of the Canadian electorate. Hey, I've got Sherunian has shown up. And I'd never seen your last name before. I'd seen Sherunian Allegiance. You've changed it. But anyway, so it was back in 2009, 8 or 9. You can look this up. Angus Reid conducted a poll, and they found that the overwhelming majority of Canadians were completely ignorant of the fact that abortion is legal at any point during pregnancy, including right up until birth. And that is because, and the reason for that is simple. The reason is this. The reason is because in Canada, a human being has no legal recognition under the law. You're not you do not become an individual with human rights until you have fully emerged from the birth canal, breathing and alive. A minute before, no rights. Emerge from the birth canal, a minute or so later, now you're a human being. Now you have rights under Canadian law. And that poll that was conducted, you can search it. and I forget whether it was 2000, I think it was 2009. It was conducted by Angus Reid, and they were engaged by a group called Signal, Signal Hill, Signal Hill, a Christian organization, and they wanted to know how many Canadians are aware of the legal framework surrounding this contentious issue of abortion. And I was reading, it was published in the mainstream at the time, that 80% of Canadians were completely unaware. Most people thought, oh, well, there are restrictions in later term abortions. And earlier in this, when I started, I was talking about the fact that the pro-abortion advocates, that they have achieved, I called it near total victory. And the reason I qualify it somewhat and saying it's near total, but not total victory, is because these advocates, those advocating for abortion, they want more abortions taking place, not less. So that what they want is increased funding for abortion. And they want increased access to abortion so that even more abortions can happen. Now, the rallying cry of those who promote terminating the lives of kids before they're born, before they're fully emerged from the birth canal, is choice is choice. I said it before. Choice is choice. And I find there's something ironic in this, because the pro-abortion lobby doesn't want any restriction whatsoever, no matter how reasonable. No matter how reasonable. The practice of sex-selective abortion, choosing to abort a child because it's the wrong gender. You can't. The Harper government, because we're going back to when this survey came out, was back in 2008-9. That's when the Prime Minister of Canada was Stephen Harper, and his government had a backbench MP who had put forward a motion asking for Parliament, the Parliament of Canada, to condemn the practice of terminating pregnancies based on gender, killing girls because they weren't they didn't have the right chromosomal makeup. Instead of being XX, darn that Y. Or rather, I got that backwards, sorry. Instead of being, you know what I'm trying to say. XX is female, XY is male. And darn it, if they didn't have that Y chromosome, well, get rid of it and try for another one. Sorry, little girl. Your mommy and daddy wanted a boy, or your mommy wanted a boy. I'm going to read what's being written before I get back to my notes. Okay, here it is. Eat Me says, don't want to be negative, but I do believe that India has the highest abortion rate. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I do know that the Canadian Medical Association did research into sex-selective abortion. And what they found that is in certain communities that have a cultural preference toward boys, that their data suggested sex selection abortion does take place, especially among these communities, because especially when a couple had already had two girls. They've already had two girls. It's that old equation of, if I flip a coin and it comes up heads 10 times in a row, on the 11th flip, what are the odds that it will come up tails? 50-50. So when a couple has had two girls, what are the chances that the next one is going to be a boy or a girl? It's a 50-50 chance. And what they found was that you can look into the study of them yourself. But what they found is that there was a statistical aberration in families from communities, and I believe Indians were one, I believe Chinese were another, where third children should be 50% boys, 50% girls, roughly. I know there's a slight variance between boys and girls in birth, but it's very close to 50-50. But what they found is within these communities that the number of third children born to couples who already had two girls, that it was a statistical outlier, the number of boys that were had with that third child. But I want to get back to what I wrote. Let me read the last few comments. I'm getting better at reading the chat, bringing it up anyway. Yeah, my body, my choice, unless it's an experimental mandated. Yeah, we all went through that. The COVID era, my body, my choice. But you better inject yourself with what I tell you to. And I think it's Eat Me writing that. Eat Me is of the opinion that there is, for every 10 men in China, that there's one woman. Communist society. Actually, there are only 3 countries in the world with 0 restrictions on abortion whatsoever. No, free for all. And they are Canada, China, and North Korea. We're in great company, Canada is. But what I find ironic is that when we talk about the pro-abortion lobby and those who adhere to that ideology, typically we are talking about what I prefer to call neoliberals. I don't consider them liberals in the classic sense. They're this neo-fascist liberal type who want to impose their thinking, ideology, mindset on the general population. And there's another debate that comes up, and that's firearms. And they employ the same rhetoric that the NRA does. No restriction whatsoever. It's all the thin slim of the wedge. If we agree to condemn the practice of terminating unborn children because of their gender, if we allow that, and then so we condemn it, then once we condemn it, then maybe there are restrictions put in place, and it's maybe even at some point made illegal to terminate an unborn child just because of its gender. Well, then what's next? And so they won't give any quarter, which is similar in a fashion to what the NRA does. They don't want the NRA will never allow, in the United States will never allow, they'll push back against any restriction, big or small, because they're convinced that even a small concession will open up the floodgates, and that before you know it, no one will be able to own a gun for any reason. It's interesting the way these things go. So, the mantra is always, they scream at you. Sex selection, abortion, choice is choice. Abortion as a method of birth control. Well, if that's the woman's choice, that's her choice. Choice is choice. Now, this came to mind recently because Jordan Peterson, he was hosting Pierre Poilievre, the leader of Canada's Conservative Party, on his podcast. And that podcast has, on the YouTube channel, has gotten it's 3.7, 3.8, almost 4 million views just on YouTube. And there's reporting that on X, formerly known as Twitter, that on that platform, that the video has been viewed 30 million times. Now, obviously, that's a global audience. There are people outside of Canada who are interested in who is this guy, Pierre Poilievre. So it's getting a lot of views. And then, of course, there are other platforms and there are other short versions of it. So it's probably been viewed, total people have either watched it in whole or in part. It's probably been viewed 100 million times. That would not surprise me. And after that video dropped, after that podcast came out, the Liberal Party attacked the interview, not over anything specific about what Poilievre said. It was over the fact that one of the sponsors of Peterson's podcast is a group called Preborn. And what Preborn does is it helps pregnant women and girls to perhaps choose to give birth to their child as opposed to aborting it, as opposed to having it terminated, killed. So when we get into the woke liberal left, these neoliberals, as I call them, which is a death cult, if ever there was one, helping vulnerable women and girls, and I'm talking about real females, real girls, not guys who are confused and who like to play dress up. I'm talking about real females. Helping vulnerable women and girls choose life. That's a bad thing in this woke left neoliberal death cult mindset ideology that has overtaken they've shut down the debate. They do not want to have the debate. And I keep going back to the fact that 80% of Canadians are unaware of the free-for-all that exists currently within Canada. And how can you have an informed debate when most people are not informed as to the simple facts? Because there are a lot of Canadians believe that there are restrictions on having an abortion based on sex selection. They think that that's not allowed. Well, it is. They think that there are restrictions on allowing a woman to access abortion even in the third trimester, where the woman's physical health, that she's not at risk of dying or of having serious health issues. That there are no restrictions at all. None. And where will the debate end up? Well, the debate ends up nowhere if it doesn't take place. And that's the goal of the pro-abortion lobby. Doesn't want the debate taking place. The only thing they want right now is more money, more procedures, more abortions, more unborn kids killed. And it's not a heck of a lot else. That's all I wrote. That's all I wanted to say on the matter. I think it's a debate we need to have. I think it's a discussion worth having. I think it speaks to the culture of a society, the degree to which we value life. I think it's emblematic of this culture of death is what, it started out as terminating the lives of unborn kids because they're the wrong gender or because, I'm just not ready, whatever. I thought I could do it, but I can't. Late-term abortion, and they do happen. There was a clinic in a bordering state to Quebec that used to perform late-term abortions, and that's where the Quebec Ministry of Health would send women or girls who wanted to have, who chose to have an abortion. They didn't have the facilities, and I hope my computer, I think I might have shut down for a bit. I have Eat Me writing, Preborn, an alternative backed by financial aid to help you carry along in pregnancy. Gordon, in the US, it is about $25,000 total in hospital fees to have a baby. Oh, I know, it's insanely expensive, especially in the United States. But it's also, kids are expensive. I have 3. Kids are expensive. Clothes, diapers, formula. I was just talking to a woman today that I go to church with. She's got 5 kids. Amen. And people talk about the fact, well, why do we have this death cult? Well, it's because there are 8 billion people on the planet. Well, yes, there are 8 billion people on this planet, and the population is growing, but native-born Canadian citizens contribute zero to global population growth. If the rest of the world had a birth and fertility rates that Canada has, the problem wouldn't be overpopulation. The problem would be a declining population. The Western world, with the exception of Israel, every country in the Western world has a negative fertility rate, meaning there aren't enough babies being born in the Western world to replace the people that are dying. And that's just reality. The fertility rate needs to be, every fertility rate is expressed as the number of children a woman gives birth to over the course of her childbearing years. And for a population to maintain itself, to stay roughly the same, you need a fertility rate of 2.1, meaning on average, women during their childbearing years need to give birth to 2.1 children. And Canada's fertility rate is only about 1.4, significantly below what is needed just to maintain the population. The only reason Canada's population is able to grow, the reason we've gotten to 40 million, is because of immigration. No more baby boom. That's long ago. That's the subject of my video. I think it was yesterday, talking about the pill and the introduction of the pill. And ever since the pill came along, the birth control pill, our fertility rate has been falling off a cliff. And now that we have had a decade or more of open promotion of you don't have to identify as the gender that biological reality handed you. You can play make-believe. And now we say women or men can have babies. Yeah, a woman who identifies as a man can still get pregnant. So that means a man can have a baby. This is the weird, warped, insane logic that has permeated society. Even at my workplace, it's a unionized environment, and our union rep, steward, whatever, contact me and they have to tell you what their preferred pronouns are. Yeah, I'll give you my preferred pronouns, 2 words, and the second one is off. Let me read what's being written. I have Stephen Anthony. I haven't seen that name before. I actually can tell you the spiritual truth about this. I'd be welcome to hear it, Stephen, if you want to write down the spiritual truth. At least your opinion, your view as to the spiritual truth. Eat Me is writing, growing up, they instilled in us teenagers that the career came before family. Systemic propaganda at its finest, absolutely. Life has become incredibly expensive over these back, when the sexual revolution was in its infancy in the early 60s. A lot of times you had single income families. The traditional family, and it wasn't universal, but it was the majority case, where the husband went out and earned a living and the wife managed the household and raised the kids. And because there was no birth control pill, most marriages resulted in children being born. And I think we need to examine, the way we treated those who didn't fit the prevailing narrative. There were women who couldn't have children. And sometimes it was because of the man. Sometimes a man can have a low sperm count. And so pregnancy doesn't take place. And there was societal condemnation. There was reproach. There was this, you're not contributing. And I think, we need to be aware of these facts. I don't think they're the ultimate, cause. I don't think that's the reason why things blew up the way they have, and the reason that we've been pushed on a progression towards a cliff that's sending Western civilization over the edge. I don't think that's the reason why, but still there are lessons to be learned in the way we deal with people who are outside of the majority. We are to be kind. I'm trying to bring the chat back up. It disappeared. And come on. There were some more chat comments that I wanted to read. There we go, live chat. Sherinian has no kids. Stephen is saying that he was taught for 14 years in my dreams. Okay. They showed me 2 deaths, one of an older person, then of a child dying. The older person had forgotten their spiritual nature, so needed help crossing. Interesting dream. Interesting dream. In Scripture, in the Bible, Jesus tells us that we need to have the faith of a child. The more we learn, the less we know. I was thinking I'll end this video shortly by mentioning that I was having a thought on belief versus faith yesterday. I think the idea started coming to my head last night. And I think it coalesced around this, a news reporting story. I forget from where, I think it was Fenland Falls, actually, where a 14-year-old, a teenager, had fallen through the ice and firefighters had gone out, and there was video of it, of a firefighter crawling out on the ice and pulling this 14-year-old to safety, where they'd been in the water for 10, 15 minutes, and apparently hypothermia was beginning to set in. I think full recovery, the lad was treated in hospital and then subsequently released. So I don't think there was any long-term damage. But I was thinking about belief and faith, and we all state beliefs. This is what I believe to be true. And as a professing Christian, we have our creeds, our statements of belief. I believe in the Holy Catholic Church and the communion of saints and life everlasting. I believe that Jesus Christ lived, died, and was buried, that he rose again on the 3rd day, that he will come again to judge the living and the dead. And I do not know the Nicene Creed or the Apostles' Creed or any of these creeds off by heart. Roman Catholics will know that creed, though, that I was giving, because it is said every single service. And it's an I believe, and I believe, and I believe, and I believe. And my question is this: how often do people say I believe, but don't really believe? They don't have faith. And I thought of it in terms of walking out on the ice. Well, I believe the ice is thick enough to withstand my weight and that I can walk across safely. I can go across that pond safely. I believe. Well, let's see you walk out on that ice. That taking the ice, it's easy to stand on the shore and say, I believe the ice is strong enough to hold me up, to not break, and for me to walk across the ice. So you believe that, okay, walk across then. If the person then is willing to walk across, that is a demonstration of faith. And the strength of that faith will be determined in how they walk. Do they walk out boldly with confidence and assuredness that every step I'm standing on solid ice? Or are they going to test, suggesting that their faith doesn't completely line up with their beliefs? It's a thought I had. Anyway, that's my video for tonight. The one thing I would love to see happen in this country is for a vigorous and informed debate on this issue of abortion. I would love to see that. But I know that the woke liberal left mob, these neoliberals, do not want the debate to take place, because there's no ground to gain, or very little ground for them to gain. They want more money and they want more abortions taking place. But any gains are going to be very small as compared to what could potentially be lost. And healthcare in Canada is a public government service. We have socialized medicine in this country. And during the what most still refer to as the quote unquote pandemic, during that insane time, that was part of the rationale. Well, we have to save the healthcare system. It's being crushed. Even before COVID, Doug Ford had run on a campaign stating that he was going to end hallway medicine. That's how bad things are in my home province of Ontario, is that people go into the hospital and they don't get a bed in a hospital room. They're being treated in a chair or out in the hallway medicine. And that was one of Doug Ford's campaign slogans, ending hallway medicine, because our healthcare system for a decade plus, for 20 plus years, has been crying that there needs to be a significant expansion in the capacity of the system with significant investment, because Canada's aging population, because the baby boom population is, getting in 60s, 70s. And this is when people start to access the healthcare system more. And well, abortion is a public service and it costs money. And one of the things that drove me most crazy during the pandemic, or what people call the pandemic, is that abortion services were always deemed to be essential. There's a gentleman in Calgary, a musician, and he needed a heart procedure performed. And doctors refused. We can't do it. It's a pandemic. It's too dangerous. Oh, but you want to terminate your child? It's female and you wanted a boy and you don't want another girl? Hey, no problem. We can do that. Abortion was essential. Life-saving surgeries were not. And sadly, that Calgary musician died. Father of two. Two little girls are without a dad. And, another less person on the planet. Another, and doing an abortion there, less people on the planet. Sometimes you might want, when trying to determine the rationale for things, it helps to look and see, what is the outcome? Is that what the goal was to begin with? Was the goal the outcome that was achieved? Because what happens when people don't have access to needed medical care? What is the outcome when less people on the planet? Anyway, gonna end off there. I'll end my videos the way I always do, reading from the book of Numbers. It's the end of chapter 6. I like to get the verbiage right. I like to get it perfect. Leviticus, Numbers. It's right at the end of chapter 6, and it is this: the Lord bless and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Thanks for tuning in. Let me read the last few comments and then we'll call it a night, if I can get the comments to come up. And while I'm trying, I'll remind everyone, if you want to subscribe, share, comment in the comment field, not just in the live chat. I wonder if anything will come up. There we go. I think it's because my fingers are too fat. This tablet's annoying. I'm not going to be able to get the chat to come up for whatever reason. Oh, come on. It's not working for me, so I'm going to end the video there. We'll see you all in a night or two. God bless.
finally.